Welcome back to Surrey Build Weekly. Today we are going to be talking about planning for your project, whether it be a loft conversion or extension. First of all, let's start with loft conversions. So, loft conversions. The majority of the loft conversions we build fall under permitted development. Permitted development is criteria set nationwide by the government which dictates what you can lawfully do to your property without having planning permission. When your project falls within the criteria for permitted development, we still do the architectural drawings and we still make a submission to your local authority. But it's a shorter wait, a 6 to 8 week wait, and we are obtaining a certificate of lawful development as opposed to full planning permission. Whilst some people do believe that if your project falls under permitted development, you don't need to go through planning, we always advise our clients to still obtain that certificate of lawful development because it will avoid any complications further on down the line when you come to sell your property. So, how to know if your loft falls within permitted development? We have to calculate how much of the roof volume is increased in cubic meterage. So that's the rear dormer or any hip to gables that we're adding to the existing roof structure. Our architect will carry out calculations to determine how much of the roof space is increased and if it falls within permitted development. If your property is a terrace and you're adding only a rear dormer, then you can increase the roof volume up to 40 cubic metres. If you have a semi-detached or detached property, that increases to 50 cubic metres. Other criteria that determine whether your project falls within permitted development are the types of materials you propose to use. They need to be in keeping with the existing materials, and items such as glazing. If your loft falls outside of that criteria, then we have to apply for either a householder application or full planning. Any lofts that have to have the ridge height increased because the head height isn't adequate for a loft would have to go straight in for full planning, and any lofts with front dormers would definitely also need full planning. When you go in for full planning, you're waiting slightly longer for a decision of around 10 to 12 weeks. Having said that, not all properties will have permitted development rights. Sometimes if you're in a conservation area or an area of natural beauty, then you won't have PD rights. And also, if you live in a new build, the property developers might have removed the permitted development rights permanently or for something like a 5-year period. The reason for this is that they want to keep the development of a uniform appearance and they don't want people to have the option to alter the houses without full planning. When it comes to planning for extensions, planning tends to be slightly more complex, and that will depend on the type of project you're doing. If you're looking at doing a rear single-storey extension, most of those will fall within permitted development rights as long as you adhere to the rules of PD and how far you can go out and the height of the roof and so on. If you are looking at having a double storey or a side extension, then you would be entering the realms of a householder application or full planning. The full planning applications require a little bit more time and effort from our architect because there are a number of surveys that might be required to accompany your application. Things like trees, drains, right of light for your neighbours might have to be considered, so it might be slightly more costly process depending on what is required to accompany your application. Here at Surrey Build Group, we offer a very streamlined one-stop solution for clients. We do design, planning and build all in one, which means that we have got all elements of your project from concept to completion, and internally we're able to communicate, liaise and make sure that your project is delivered on budget and in a timely manner. We will initially have a consultation where we determine what you're wanting to achieve from your project, and we will discuss the options you have, what's possible and what's not. We will then be able to carry out the full measured survey. Our architect will work with you on the drawings ready for submission to the local authority. We'll manage that process for you and submit any necessary documentation or surveys that are required. And then once you've got approval, our in-house engineer will carry out the structural calculations and produce the technical drawings needed on site. What to expect when you come to us for design and build. Initially, you will be offered a Zoom meeting, which is called a Project Kickstart meeting. We will find details of your property on Rightmove, so we've got photos and a floor plan to work from, and we will share that on screen and talk about what you want out of your project. And then we will follow that up with a home visit. So we meet you face to face at your property, make sure the costs that we have given are in line with the project, and just run through any questions you might have. So that just about brings us to the end of episode 33 of Surrey Build Weekly. Hopefully it's been informative and giving you something to think about with planning. Of course, if you've got any questions, feel free to pop them in the comments. I hope you enjoyed our content this week. Please like, and if you want to see more, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.